My name is Anthony, and I'm a doctor of physical therapy. This video is just me literally firing from the dome with a simple explanation of what it takes to be a physical therapist. So, I am a physical therapist. Prior to being a PT, I was a physical therapist assistant for roughly 3 years. I've been practicing as a PT now for about 2 years. So, traditionally, to be a PT, you want to go through 4 years of an undergraduate program. And to be honest, it doesn't matter what undergraduate degree you do. Traditionally, we see exercise science, biology. In my class, I even had some people who were engineers and psychology majors. So it really doesn't matter what program you go through for your 4 year degree, as long as you have a 4 year degree. And every school is a little bit different in terms of graduate school. For physical therapy, they're going to require certain prerequisites, such as most require 2 anatomy courses, 2 chemistry courses, a psychology course, 2 physics courses. um, those are the ones that I could think of off the top of my head. After you finish your bachelor's degree, typically you're going to take the GRE or the graduate record exam. Not all PT schools require it, but most do. Then they have a preferred score, meaning a score that they typically want for acceptance to their program. And in the 90s, to be a physical therapist, it transitioned from a bachelor's to a master's degree. And then in the late 2000s, it transitioned from a master's degree to a doctorate level degree. So I think it was 2008 or 2009. All entry level physical therapists across the nation had to have their DPT or doctorate of physical therapy. Essentially, the doctorate just indicates that you are an expert in the field, and it is a terminal degree for physical therapy. So pretty cool. I mean, you do get that DR with a period in front of your name. And then typically when you're practicing, you oversee PTAs and you can oversee other healthcare professionals, which kind of does give you that grace for that higher level of education. But to go back to it, after you take the GRE, you're going to need observation hours or shadowing hours to get to PT school. And those hours, they could be pretty much in any physical therapy setting. So you could do inpatient, your hospitals, your skilled nursing, let's see, acute rehab. You can do your outpatient, so your standalone clinics like your big boxes, your Dreyers, your Phoenixes, your Novacares, your Athleticos. You could even do home health rotations or school-based rotations for your shadowing or observation hours. That varies across the board too. Some schools only require 40 hours. Some schools require 100 hours. I know when I went to Youngstown State, they only required 40 hours. And then comes the daunting aspect of it. That's going to be your application process. So that application process is going to be through a program called PT Cast, and that thing is extensive. There's a lot of components required in there, and typically we advise people who are applying to PT school to take anywhere from like 2 to 3 months to complete this thing, because it's going to ask a ton of questions, such as like socioeconomic background, prior levels of education, going back from your high school days too, any accolade you've ever had. Uh, Depending on the PT school, they're going to ask for like 3 to 5 letters of recommendation. And usually one of those have to be from a physical therapist, one of those have to be from a prior employer, and one of them have to be from a prior professor. They're also going to ask for all of your transcripts. And then some of them even have essay questions. And then that's the fun part. You can apply to realistically as many PT schools as you want across the country. Really doesn't matter. It's just the aspect of you have to pay to do that. So most people only apply to like 3 to 5 PT schools. Me, myself, I applied to 3 PT schools. And yeah, then you play the waiting game. Some do interview processes where during the application period, after you submit it, you actually get an email to attend for an interview. A lot of programs are veering away from that though for good reasons. I'll touch base on that in a different video. And then eventually, usually it's over winter, sometime around Christmas, you get an email that lets you know if you were accepted or if you were waitlisted into PT school. If you were accepted, it's pretty cut and dry. You pay the down payment to get into school, which for most programs it's $500 to $1,000, and then you get an email for when you're going to start your classes with your cohort. If you get waitlisted, that's where it gets scary, because waitlisted means that they already picked their cohort. If people in that cohort decide not to go to PT school, that's when your name might get pulled, but they don't tell you where you're at on the wait list. And you figure the average acceptance rate for PT school is 10 to 15%. So there's a lot of kids that apply. Usually to programs, you're looking at 300 to 400 kids, and most programs only accept 30 to 50 kids. So waitlisting is very scary because you don't know if you're number 200 on the wait list or you don't know if you're number 51 on the wait list. Then once you're in PT school, programs are anywhere from 2 to 3 years, and it is a doctorate level education, a graduate program. So they're pretty fast paced. There's a lot of content coming your way, and it's essentially a full time job. And once you're in PT school, you're going to have a ton of different classes ranging from your neuroscience. Of course, you're going to have a graduate level anatomy and physiology. You're going to have your clinical decision making courses. You're going to have pediatrics, geriatrics. You're going to have a lot of cardiopulm content. You're going to have some psychology courses. Anything that pertains to you being a therapist. There's even some business classes there because as a PT, traditionally you can step into like a managerial role. And then also, most programs have 2 to 3 clinical rotations that you would end up going through. I have heard of some programs having 4, and I have heard of some programs having just 2. I don't know if they're phasing out of that. At YSU, I had 3 clinical rotations, and I thought it was very helpful. And then once you're done with all of that, as long as you pass, you get your actual diploma for your DPT. And DPT stands for just the degree. You don't have your PT yet. To get your PT, you have to take a accreditation exam or a licensing exam called the NPTE, or the National Physical Therapy Examination. It's also another very daunting test that I'll talk about in a different video, but they're very challenging. In some years, pass rates are only like 70% across the nation, which is not super high. But as long as you were a good student, as long as you study, you should get past it. Simple video. I just wanted to put it out there because it was on my mind of simple way how to become a physical therapist. I'm going to go more in depth with this in another video. I'm also going to give my journey on how I became a physical therapist in another video. And I'm going to start putting little videos out like this periodically. But until we catch you later, follow for more PT without the boring lecture.